All right. Hi, this is Mike from Blue Line Plug Pottery. This is October 27th. It is noon exactly. As you can see, I'm coming live from sunny Blue Island, Illinois. I'm in the recording studio, and today's class is on Gimp, the image manipulation software. And looks like it's just me, but that's okay. We'll do the class anyway and see how it goes. So, all right, let's get started. I'll share my screen and we'll see what happens. All right, so today's class is on, as we already said, Gimp, the GNU image manipulation program. It's basically a free image editor, kind of sort of like a watered down version of Photoshop, or maybe a beefed up version of Microsoft's Paint or something like that. So if you just do a Google search for Gimp, we'll find the homepage for the project. And I was going to install this live, but it takes my computer a long time to do it. So kind of already pre-installed it, but I'll show you the process that I did. So basically, here's the homepage. There's a giant download button. And you basically want the most stable, most current, most recent stable version, stable release of the software. In this case, it's 2.10.22. And all I did was download this file and save it and run it, and I was able to get the software. So the rest of this is just, you can find it for different languages, different versions, different operating systems. It's great. It's open source. It works on everything. It'll work on Linux. It'll work on Mac. It'll work on Windows. It'll work everywhere. So let's fast forward to software and see what happens here. Actually, it takes a minute to start up. It's just kind of how it goes. Actually, can be even longer if you have a lot of fonts or something installed on your computer. Well, let's go into the background. Okay, so that's already started. And yes, so today's, I titled the program Gimp Basics and creating fun spot the difference style puzzles and things like that. So that's kind of how we're going to go with this. Let's show some basic things in Gimp first. So here you kind of have just an empty project with floating windows all over the place. It took me a while to get used to the floating windows thing. If you're not down with that, there is an option. If you go window, you can say single window mode. You'll get maybe possibly much more easier to manage layout for the software. Kind of got used to the multi-window mode, so I'm going to take that back off. And you know, the basic idea is, you know, it's image manipulation, so it's move this around. So you can do things, you know, it could be as simple as creating a new project and just painting stuff all over the place. So I'll just do File New, and I'll get a blank canvas. And you have your basic, your art tools, you have your paintbrushes, styles, and all kinds of different things. So at the very minimum, you can just pick a paintbrush and, you know, draw all over the place. These two boxes here are the active colors. So I'm actually painting white on white right now. If I pick black, I'm just clicking anywhere in this giant color thing. Then I'll have a black paintbrush, which I could draw all kinds of cool things if I was an artist. So that's all great. You know, there's a million other applications for photo manipulation, graphic design in general. So I'll show you some of the pictures that I picked from Facebook, and we'll try to do some fun puzzles out of them. Fair warning, I'm kind of a terrible graphic designer, so there's that. So I'm going to close this project and not save it. Say close all, discard everything. So now we're back to our just blank window here. So I went on our Facebook just a few minutes ago, and I picked a whole bunch of pictures that were posted to our Facebook in like the last month or so. So I have all these pictures, and basically I'm looking for something typically that's in portrait view and has a lot of stuff in it, doesn't have any weird angles or weird shadows or anything like that. So also doesn't really have a lot of people. I kind of get weird about photoshopping people. I don't know. I guess you kind of have to be careful what you do. You don't want to make somebody look bad or something. So I've got all these pictures. I haven't really decided which one we're going to do. Let me make sure there's participants one. Okay. Looks like it's just me still. So normally, you know, we could vote on a picture to use, but we will use, I don't know, there's a lot of good ones here. Kind of picked like some of these with the books have a lot of things. We could move stuff around, change titles, do different things. Those are all pretty good. So another good one with the pod. It's kind of going to do something with like a portrait view first. This one seems like it'd be a good one, but there's not a lot of stuff in there. This one has a lot of stuff, but I wouldn't even know where to begin. There's almost so much. Kind of another thing. You don't want to mess with somebody's artwork either. Although some of these are pretty cool. Might do this one with the dragon and the sunflower, and that's a sunflower. Or I might do a different one. All right, let's just do the sunflower one. So basically what's going to happen now is I'm going to probably just drag that image right into our program. So take this here, drag this right into the main window of Gimp. And it will load up the image, and here we have something. And I wish this was a little bit better resolution, but that's okay. Because even if it's bad resolution, it's probably better than you won't see all the mistakes that we might make. So to do these little spot the difference type puzzles, basically kind of crop the part that you want. So all this stuff in the back, you can't really see it that well anywhere. It's kind of just extra. It doesn't really need to be there. So the first thing I'm going to do is use the Select Tool. And there's a way to select a rectangle. I can find it. Rectangle select. Here we go. So these are kind of tools in the top left here. And I'm going to pick the one that says, so I right-clicked to get more options within each tool. As you can see, there's a sub-menu that flies out from each one. So it starts with an ellipse select. I actually want the rectangle select. And I'm just going to pick, you know, the top part, the part with the good stuff in it. So I'm going to draw a box and kind of select everything except for the top part. And then I'm going to do just edit copy and edit paste. And we'll do paste. I'd even just paste this as a new image altogether. So we'll do that. So now we have the same thing with the top cropped off and zoomed in a little. So we actually don't need this other one. I'm going to just close this one and discard the changes. We're just working on this one right here. So I'm on Save Project. The next thing I'm going to do is basically put two of these images next to each other and make a bunch of changes to one side. So the way to do that is the terminology uses the canvas. So if I go up to image and then I go to canvas size, I just want to make it twice as wide so I can copy the thing over. So basically I want my width to be twice as much as it already is. So either apply math or change this to percent and say it's 200% as wide. Finally click this resize button at the bottom and you can see what's going to happen. We're going to have the image on the left and a whole bunch of blank space on the right. That's all it does. So perfect, right? This is the kind of, you know, symbol for images there, but there's no content to it. It's the little checkerboard thing. So the next thing we need to do is copy the left over to the right. And the easiest way for me to do that is to take the layer and sort of duplicate it. So I'm going to say duplicate layer. Now we've got two that are basically in the same position. They're right on top of each other. So I just need to move one over to the other. So there's a move tool for that. This is the one with the arrows all over the place, as you could expect. So I'm going to click on that, and I'm just going to drag one of them over to the other side. And maybe zoom in. To zoom, I'm just using the mouse wheel back and forth along with the control key. So control mouse wheel forward to zoom in, control mouse wheel back is zoom out. Just a little helpful thing. So I'm going to keep on moving this. I'm just trying to get this as close as I can to the corner to make it look nice. It doesn't have to be perfect. I mean, you can zoom in as much as you want. And eventually you get to the point where even if it's off a little, nobody's going to know the difference anyway. So now we have two right next to each other. Perfect, right? Now all we have to do is make a bunch of changes to one side, and there's our puzzle. Now for the sake of sanity, I generally try to rename some of these layers. You can see when I click back and forth, kind of draws a box around the active one. So this one's on the right, this one's on the left. So for the sake of at least my own sanity, I rename these layers, and you can do that with edit layer attributes, which is I basically just right click on this, and set the top option, edit layer attributes, and I'll say this is right side. Hit the OK button. Great. This other one, do the same thing. We'll call it left side. Perfect. Now, generally, when I do these, I make all the changes I want to the right side and leave the left side as the original image. You can do it either way. That's just how I do it. Let me just make sure. No, I'm still the only participant here. That's okay. All right. I'm also going to save this, and just so we have our project saved. Let's see here. Puzzles. So pick a spot to save your project. I just have spot difference games, and I've made a bunch of these for our Facebook at some point. Create a new folder, and the last one I did was called 33, so I'm going to call this spot 34 as 34. I call my project the same thing. So I made a folder and I called the project just S34. Perfect. Enter key. Now my project is saved. Now the next thing to do is kind of look around and see what we could change. Basically, essentially you can do one of three things. One is you could add something, basically like copy one thing to another spot. All you do is remove something. There's various different ways to do that. Another thing is alter something or change something, which basically could be just a simple move from one area to another, just slightly, or you can get creative, change colors or textures and things like that. So the first thing I'm looking at here is we've got the like a sewer grate. I'm going to move this around. I'm actually holding the middle mouse wheel down to kind of click and drag around so I can see different things. And again, in combination with the zoom function, and kind of see what's possible and what's not possible. So, all right, so easy thing to do first off is probably take some of these spots that are over this sewer grate that's been modified to look like a flower. And the easiest way to do that is just use the clone tool all over everything. That makes everything really fast. So that is under, let's see, pass tool, smudge tool. Okay, clone tool. Looks like a person with a triangle on his chest. So what happens here is you kind of set the size. You have a giant circle. Like I just want to maybe make that little black spot right here, put another one over here somewhere. Very easy to do, but the paintbrush is way too large. So that's the size right here. So 268 is a huge size for a paintbrush. I'm going to bring that down. I'm just clicking in the actual box here. There's also little arrows here, up and down. So it's a little bit smaller. I think generally what works is to make the size of the selector tool about the size of the thing you want to change. So that little spot is like about the size of this thing. And the way this clone tool works is simply you look down at the bottom, it gives you the actual directions. Control click to set a new clone source. So the part that I want to clone, it's this black piece right here. I'm going to Control click on it. And then basically in the new spot, you just click and draw around. So if we want another one, say I want one right here, I just kind of click around and draw it right there. Now easily we have a little thing that's different. So if you're looking at this like a puzzle, you probably would easily see that there's an extra spot there. So that's cool. There's one. Usually we do 5 differences. So another thing we can do is take something away. Now, maybe, let's see, do something with the tail up there, or this is somebody's artwork, so I don't want to like destroy it, but maybe we'll do something with one of these. So we could easily overwrite one of the petals, and hopefully the original artist won't be upset with us. So we'll do the same thing. So it's nice because you have this concrete that's kind of bland and it's a texture that's easy to work with. I want to make the paintbrush a little bit smaller, and I'm going to pick a blank spot of concrete, and let's see, we'll do it to this one here is kind of by itself. So I'll click on this, Control click to set my source, and basically I'm just going to kind of paint over this other spot, and all it does is it just takes it away. Very simple, but very effective, and all of a sudden it looks like just a bunch more concrete. Keep on clicking and drawing. The good thing it's about this texture is you can kind of just keep on clicking all over it, and eventually it all disappears and looks nice. Let's do, I can even this other spot and go a little quicker now. And basically there's suddenly a flower petal that is missing. I'm going to go real close, just zoom in and kind of get as close as you can. It doesn't have to be perfect. As you can see, I've kind of screwed up something with this line here. If you wanted to, you could go in really close and try to fix that. But at that point, you're really not going to notice. It looks like just a little leftover piece of spray paint. Actually, it is kind of obvious. So maybe we should fix that really quick. Make a small, not big. Maybe kind of clone this texture over here and kind of take that white piece off. Put a little black back. There we go. So there we go. So now we have 2 differences pretty quickly. We've got petal missing and an extra piece of black chalk or spray paint. That's chalk. All right, so those are 2 things. So let's see. So we removed something, we added something. Okay, so let's see if we can modify something. So one thing we can do is maybe either extend something or move something. So right away we've got some dots here we could do. That would be probably another add. I might do that later. Thinking something with this tail, either one of them. One thing you can do that would actually be pretty easy to do is simply just take some of this tail piece and extend it further. So I'm zoomed in pretty far. I could probably Control click, and I think I can just kind of do something like this. Now the tail's like a little bit longer. Now we just have to fix something here. Smooth that out a little bit. Yeah, so I'm pretty liberal with the use of the clone tool. It kind of just does everything for me. I'll even kind of extend it again to sort of make this a little bit longer, a little more easy to see. All right, so now we've got a longer tail on this dragon or snake, or I'm not sure. Without the context from the whole picture, I'm not sure. It's abstract. So now we've got a couple things. So we've got the extra dot down here. We've got the completely missing flower petal thing. Much longer tail, And another trick you can do is something with color. I wish there was a solid, easy piece to work with, but there isn't really. So let's try, I'm just gonna save this file save. And one thing I actually do, might be a little crazy, is take my undo history and I'll just clear everything, which all I did for that was edit undo history. And one of these says remove all operations. So I'm going to do that. Just in case I completely screw something up, I can just hit Control-Z or undo a bunch of times to get back to where I was. So I'm kind of happy with the first 3 things that we did. They look fine. And I mean, I guess we'll probably could just close and open the project again. That would be one way to do it as well. But for me, I just like to hit Control-Z a lot. So let's see if this will work. What I want to see if it'll happen is we can change the color of something. And this may or may not work. So if it doesn't work, okay, it's a live program. That's live. So one thing we can do is there's a selector tool called the pass. Oh, here it is, yes, pass. Now, there's also a scissor select tool, which is pretty cool too. And there's a colors, there's a select by color as well. The pass tool, I think, is if you're not doing a lot of crazy stuff, it's kind of easy to work with. So basically this works, use the tool, it's called pass. There's no subtools for it. And you kind of just click around and you're going to draw like a free hand box around your object. And kind of trying to get the outline too, because that's part of it. And so I just drew a big box around this thing. And then when you're finally done, you hit the enter key and it turns into a selection for you. Great. Now, what we want to do is paint a different color on another layer. So now we've got this selected. What we can do is go back to our layers dialog. And I think you can just right click and you can say new layer, new layer. And I'm just going to call this color. And basically, now that this layer is selected, I'm just going to take a paintbrush and draw a weird color on it. Let's just pick like a green or something. Okay, bright green. And just drawing green all over it. Now, this looks weird. I'm not actually drawing on, the front layer. In other words, basically, we're just looking at that color where it would be on the other layer. So here's green. I have a layer called color with green all over it. And basically, the trick is where it says normal up here, you can change the type of layer that it is. Usually, the word overlay is the one that you want that works really good. So now you have something that looks like it's in green. And this could be, you could mess around, you could do different colors. Now, we started with white, so this was easy because if you add green to white, you just get green with white in it. Now, if you have other colors, then they mix together, and honestly, I don't know enough about how colors work together to know what colors make other colors, but if you're just trying to make a change, this works. So I'm just gonna maybe select nothing, select none, so we can see this a little bit better. So I'm already pretty happy with how that is. Sometimes they stick out like a sore thumb. If that's the case, then basically this opacity meter right here is kind of your difficulty meter. So 0 being no change at all. So there it is, white again. And 100% being like a completely different change. Now it's very green. So somewhere in the middle is an appropriate level of difficulty in recognizing or finding the difference in this style of puzzle. So I'm just going to put that up to, I don't know, 60 or 70 or something. Looks good to me. Okay, so let's save that again. Now we did 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and so we did 4 differences. 5th one could be anything. We'll just pick something at random. Let's see, we'll do. And these little squares look like they're pretty easy to just copy somewhere else. So I can use the clone tool again, make sure that we're talking about the right side layer, make sure that's selected. And zoom in and basically make the paintbrush smaller. Control click to set the spot, and we'll just put those dots somewhere else as well, maybe like right next to it over here. So here's that one, and if we want, we could do, excuse me, the other one. Oh, just 2 extra dots. Now it might be kind of weird because now it's like, well, does that count as 2 differences? I don't know. They're pretty close to each other, so I think people would get the idea that there's extra squares of yellow. So that's pretty much all there is to that one. I'm going to save my project again. We've got our find the 5 difference game set up. Pretty good. Extra black spot, the white petal thing, the yellow squares, the green word circle thing, and the much longer tail, somewhat longer tail. So finally, what we would do is we save the project, we do file export. So file export would give us perhaps export as. So if we want to put this on social media or something, we could select a extension and you could export this PNG or JPEG or any number of many different formats. Gimp happens to have suggested PNG, so I'm thinking that's cool. They usually put the word done in my file name for the finished product. Click export and accept all the defaults. The progress bar flies by, and now if I look back at number 34, I should have our finished product. Done. Open that up. Wait for the picture thing to load. I did it twice, I think. That's something I put earlier. Okay, so yeah, there's our finished product, and it could go, you know, to social media or something, and it's a fun little puzzle to share with everyone. So great, let's try another one. Let's see, hopefully we'll do this other one. Should be a lot faster this time now that we kind of know what we're doing. So I'm gonna close everything. I don't need that project anymore. Gimp can stay open. I'm gonna look back at my pictures that I just downloaded. And let's see, we have, kind of try to stay away from people, but this first one I can tell that I'm in it, so I'm thinking that's okay. I don't know if the other guy would appreciate it or not, but he's not here, so that's okay. So we got books, we got the 2 guys, we got people, or we got books, we got other people at Circ Desk, more books. That's a good one. I'm kind of already thinking like put black all over one of these monitors, turn one of those computers off. More books, possibly could cut and paste, move books around. That would probably be a good example. There's a pot from some kind of program we did. More, this would be an example of like a horizontal on top of a horizontal. I'm not sure, these were probably used in a program. A lot of easy things that we could do. Let's try, I don't know what we can do with that one. This one's kind of the same thing, so we'll probably do books. So we go to books, we got that books, and this books. All right, let's try this books here. Don't know what we're gonna do exactly, but we'll figure something out. We could probably just mess with covers since that's kind of the bulk of what's in there. So back to Gimp. I'm going to, let's see, let me close this one. Is the one, I believe it's this one right here. I'm just going to drag it right into the main part of the window. Ooh, there it is. It's already pretty much tall portrait mode, so I don't think I have to crop anything. I could probably just get away with just immediately going up to changing the canvas size, just like we did earlier, saying it's 200% width, resizing it, resize button. Now we have a big empty space next to it. duplicate our layer just like we did before. Now we have two of them on top of each other. Move one over to the other side. Do what we can to try to get close. We got two of them. And maybe for added sanity purposes, we'll call this one right. And this other one, the selection around it now, we can add layer attributes and say left, so we don't get confused later. And now we're pretty much up to the point where we're just going to be using probably the clone tool all over everything, and just the way we did it before. So maybe I'll save this too. Save. All right, let's see. Puzzles. Let's see. Make a new folder. This will be 35, and we'll also call this 35 for the project name. So great. So let's look around and see what we can do. We got a bunch of books. We have some kind of reflection stuff on some of the covers, which might make some of them difficult. We could probably move a book, probably change colors. We could probably remove text pretty easy. Let's see. Yeah, so let's look at like this red lotus, for example. That one looks pretty easy. It's just, we could probably just white black all over the word lotus and it would just be the red. No offense to Mr. Boalian's book title, but we could probably change it pretty easily. So let's try that. So we'll pick the clone tool, make sure on our right layer, just pick a spot of nothing. Here's our base. Just click here, and basically we're just taking that away. Pretty simple. This one, see there's a little gray on the cover. I kind of want to keep that. So I'm going to pick this spot here, and then instead I'm going to go up and down, and hopefully that will carry some of that gray edge, which it did. So that's good. So let's see, is that obvious? You can also use the, so we kind of made this very smooth where there's sort of, I don't know if this is just artifacts or that's, it's not guessing the color correctly. I think if we had a higher resolution, it would probably be easier to work with. We could possibly try the heal tool, which is basically the clone tool. Right click on that, and there's a heal tool, which kind of melds the two together a little bit differently. So rather than a straight 100% clone, take one sample over to a new source, sorry, one source over to a new destination. This kind of tries to amalgamate the original and the new together. Easier looked at than explained. So let's say I pick this as my source. Now I can kind of put this back in over here, and now see, now it looks like I'm kind of just, looks almost the same as the clone tool, doesn't it? Let's see. All right, undo that. That didn't look good. We'll try this as the source. And that's not completely changing everything, but it is kind of putting some of this, where we had this kind of awkward looking smoothness earlier, kind of getting some of that back. Again, when you zoom out, you're really not going to notice. In fact, it might even be too small of a change for anybody to even notice. You really have to be looking close. But that's right. We'll deal with that. So file save. That's one change. Now I was looking at, there was a book. So this book right here looks pretty interesting. I feel like we could probably move it. And now one thing we could do, I'll show you two ways to do this. One is take the clone tool again, which works on everything, and you could probably even clone it over itself. So in other words, if I pick the top left corner of this book as my source, and then I moved over a bit, and then kind of copied over everything again, you'll notice I can actually make the book pretty much move over and even the one behind it if I'm careful. And make sure I get everything in the middle. Basically, what I would do, this might even turn out really good. All right, so that came out pretty good. So I'm probably not gonna do this a different way. In other words, we just kind of move this book ever so slightly, and all we have to do is replace nothing, or really, I guess it's a brick wall that you can barely see because it's so dark. So basically, this edge of book here, I'm just going to kind of slowly get rid of it without trying not to destroy the edge of this book too much. This is kind of governed by distance. In other words, my circle, most of the effect is being applied to dead center, and the farther away I'm away from dead center on the circle is the less that this effect is actually taking effect. I'm just, so if you make a mistake like I did, I just hit the mouse wheel up and it jumped. The undo function is your friend, and it will undo the last thing you did. So if you make a lot of mistakes like me, so here we got like a little book artifact here that we need to fix. We probably have a piece somewhere else that we could just steal if we have one at that angle. Otherwise, we kind of just gotta, let's see, we can probably make the thing small, zoom in, maybe take like this piece over a bunch, kind of just going where I think the edge of the counter might be. It's kind of hard to tell. And this is a shadow from the book, I believe, so I'm going to try to just get rid of this. Just clicking and just pasting this bookshelf color all over it. So as you can see, this is not completely correct here. This needs to be just kind of smoothed out a little bit. So again, we don't really know what was behind the book because it's not actually an original picture. Well, we can take a pretty good guess that it's probably just more wall and counter. This is not as much as I thought it was before. All right, so when you zoom out, looks like it's just a book that's kind of misplaced a little bit. And then when you look at the other one, it's pretty obvious that this book has moved a bunch. So cool. There's one. Actually, both. So yeah, really both books have been moved over because I cloned the one behind it too. See if we can do another one where possibly we'll cut and paste, make a new layer, and move another book. So let's see, possibly something in the foreground. So possibly this Glass Hotel book could be moved. We're going to do the same thing where we're going to have to repair something behind it, but there is a better one. Actually, I should have saved what we're doing now for this blue one, but I did not. So that's life. All right, let's try. We need a book in the foreground without something in front of it. This is a straight-on shot of the bookshelf. It would have been a bit easier. So let's try to do this one. Again, I don't know, I'm kind of doing this for example purposes. So if this doesn't work out, then oops. So let's take our pass tool, basically do what we did before. I'm going to just click around, trying to get the little tiny pieces around it to all the little shadows and stuff that are part of the actual object. Just clicking all over, zooming in, zooming out to try to get parts I need. Doesn't have to be perfect. If you want it to be perfect, then either you spend a lot of time, or sometimes the other tools. I already talked about the Scissor Select tool and the Select by Color and some of the other ones. I visit those on if we ever do another program like this. All right. So basically, I clicked all over the outside of the object and finally hit the Enter key at the end. Now I have a nice selection. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy and paste this. Edit, copy, and edit, paste. And for this purpose, probably do a new layer. It makes the most sense to me. So I got new layer, and I have pasted layer, right? Great. Again, for sanity, I'm just going to even right-click, edit layer attributes, and call this book. It's the book that we're going to move somewhere. So now if I pick my move tool, that's the one with all the arrows all over it, I can take this and move it. Now we have another book, right? So the same thing before, all we have to do is repair what's in the background, which probably just be the color black all the way down, color of the book counter, kind of white cream color on the bottom, and then try to mix the two in the middle. Basically, actually a number of options. What we could do is either, talked about moving it before, right? You could just put this off to the side a little bit, and it would kind of be like how we did this one, and then I could repair the background, use the clone tool all over it. Another thing we could do is just put it somewhere completely different. And again, this is where the perspective hurts us. We could rotate it. We could do a bunch of things. We can rotate this and transform it down. Put it like over here somewhere. That would kind of be like where did I see that book before? It doesn't look right. So let's try that and see if it works. So again, because of the perspective, this kind of off angle that the whole picture was taken off, something's wrong here. You can tell that that book does not look right. It looks obviously edited. This is kind of like goes back to how in the beginning I was saying, if you're looking for a picture that making a puzzle like this works for, don't pick something with like a weird angle on it or weird shadows or stuff that's like not right in focus and stuff. So for this, I don't know if this is going to work. What I'm going to try to do is take this piece and rotate it, which I believe is under the transform tools. And so it's actually right here. You have transform, and then you can also get to it under, oh, it's in here somewhere. Transform. Unified transform. 3D transform. Okay, so this is actually different than the last version I had. So let's try this unified transform. All right, let's try. Okay, rotate. That's really what we want to do. Rotate. Where I was going with all that. All right, so I click on rotate, and usually we get a dialog for the rotate tool. All right, let's try tools, transform, rotate. Okay, I guess this is different. I guess now you click and drag. Oh, that's embarrassing. I'll have to figure out how that tool works now. Make sure we're on our right layer. Another one called book. Rotate would be a good idea. I usually have another dialog for this. Is there another something I'm missing? Very interesting. So normally at this point, I would go to Google and basically put in rotate and GIMP and probably find the answer relatively quickly. Sometimes it doesn't happen. It takes me a few minutes, and I'm not really going to, if anybody was even watching, to watch me Google a bunch of stuff. So what I'm going to do is there another tool I can use? Scale work? Oh, you know what? I wonder if it's because I have something selected. All right, let's do select none. It's still not there. It's not the answer either. Oh, it was the answer. Ah, oh, that's embarrassing. Okay, so basically what happened there where I got stuck is I had something selected already. So, which was probably down here. I had selected this whole book. And because the selection's down there, I was actually working with that area, but I'm actually looking up here and wondering why nothing's happening because I'm applying it to the other area. So whatever. So if you say select none, which is what I did, edit, I'm sorry, just select and then none, it basically assumes you want to rotate the entire layer. So, all right, so now we have this thing that we can rotate, and so we're stuck again because the perspective, like that doesn't exactly look right. Looks like the book's gonna fall over like it's falling forward. It's real hard to get stuff like that to, you'd almost need to get it in the same area. Actually, we could put it, we just put it up here somewhere. We moved it. I think I committed by rotating already. Maybe we should undo that. All right. Put this up here. So rotated twice. Edit, undo. Undo a bunch of times. I think I was actually rotating that by mistake. Okay, so here we go. Move this around. I'll make it smaller too. All right, let's rotate it again. Again, I did the same thing. Select none first, then rotate. Rotate. Okay, so that's that. Commit that change. Now it looks like the book's falling over again. Could do, yeah, I don't think this is gonna work. Could make it smaller. Might not be so obvious. So if I do the scale tool instead, I might be able to make this into a very small book. It might almost look normal. Maybe it'll work. All right, transform. I'm going to rotate this guy a little bit and just put him like down here, and hopefully nobody will notice. It'll be our little secret. All right, so I rotated that a little bit. Zoom in. This book's perfectly fine being right there, and all we got to do is fix out the background, which is actually, put this on right, and yeah, I'm just going to clone out the back of it. That's all I'm going to do. So let me save this first. And where did my clone tool go? All right, pick a piece here that's empty, and again, just get rid of that little book in the back that we don't necessarily want to be there. We just want the front book to be there. I think it looks a little more natural. I thought it might look okay with having a book in the background, but don't think that's the case. So I'm just cloning the color black all over. Get rid of it. And at this point, I can probably make this brush bigger and go a little faster. Select a new spot, and then just brushing over everything. Again, usually it doesn't take quite as long as you're kind of willing to make some sacrifices and do what I do and just use the clone tool all over the place, or go for like the low-hanging fruit and make just the easy changes. Like you could easily just take off like a letter on a lot of these book covers and you'd be done in a matter of minutes. But it's a class and we're trying to have fun. So let me just fix a little bit here. There's some weird blue that didn't look like it belonged. And there's some over here too. No big deal. Get rid of that very easily. All right. I have an extra book that, you know, looks okay to me. Looks like it sort of belongs there. This giant glass hotel. That never mind that there's another one right next to it that's a lot bigger on a different shelf. It's okay. All right, so let's see, 12:51. We got 9 minutes left. I'm gonna save this, and let's see. So what did we do so far? We did. I don't remember we did. Okay, we moved that book. We moved 2 books. We duplicated a book, moved a book, and we changed the title in here too. So let's say I usually try to do at least one thing with the color. Problem here is there isn't really a solid color, or at least a solid color that doesn't have text all over it. So we have to get kind of creative, or both the color background and the text would change, which would be okay. We do have part of floor here. We could do the floor. That would be pretty easy to do. And for the sake of saving time, just change the floor color. So again, I'm going to use my, let's try the Scissor Select tool. We haven't tried it yet. Let's see what it does. It works pretty much the same way as the Pass tool. So again, I'm just going to zoom in and I'm going to select the floor. And what happens is, okay, let's go the other way. This is trying to intelligently pick all these little, yeah, see, that's not going to do what I'm going to do. Sometimes the Scissor tool works really good, and other times it doesn't really work that good. So I'm going to just select none and get rid of all that. So we're going to use our Pass tool again because we know it's going to work. And I'm going to just pick out the floor. Pretty easy to do. I'm just going to click a bunch all over. And get this corner and making about as accurate as I can. Hit the Enter key, now we do selection. Just like we did before, we're going to make a new layer. Just going to right click over in the layers toolbox and say new layer. And I like to call it color. And we're going to paint a color. We actually have green selected, so let's go with green already. Use the paintbrush tool, make sure we're on the layer called color. Make the paintbrush tool really big. We also have a like a bucket fill tool that we could use as well. I just use a giant paintbrush and that works okay for me. So we're going to go change this from a normal layer to overlay. Works pretty good. And now we have a hideously green carpet. Perfect. Quickly though, instead of overlay, we also have different options. Overlay works the best. There's like if we pick all these other ones, you can see the color changes a little bit. Pick lighten only, it'll make it look like that. So if you want, you can get creative and kind of pick different things that make different things happen to it. Maybe. Okay, now we have a darker blue. That's pretty cool. All right, now we got a purple carpet. Let's roll with that. So again, our difficulty meter is our opacity factor here. So 100 being completely different, 0 being not very different at all. Except this is working the opposite because I picked a weird, I didn't pick overlay, I picked something weird. So we could either leave it, or we could go pick a different color, or just go back to overlay and go with green. It'll be the easy way to do it. If we wanted to, we could change that color pretty easily. Yeah, there's our color. I mean, we could just use the paintbrush tool on it to make it blue or purple or red or whatever we need to do. So green, I think, is cool. Turn our opacity down to make it not so obvious. Again, 0 being no change, 100% being very, very much extra color. So we'll go with aqua, I guess. Blue ion blue, if you will. All right, so looks pretty obvious. I don't know. If you wanted to, you could make this like almost no change at all, and then impress your friends when you say that there's some tiny little shade difference in the color. So we'll go somewhere in the middle. We'll go 45, 40%, I guess. So perfect. All right, let's save that. And is this one done? Got 4 minutes. So let's see. We did the carpet color, we moved the book, we duplicated another book, we changed the title, and we need to do one more thing. So we want to get our 5 differences. So let's see, we'll do, I don't know. The simplicity's sake would say just change something in one of the titles. Kind of hard to see some of these already. Let's see. I think of something else interesting that would be good. Again, the problem is kind of the perspective and resolution a little bit of some of these. I kind of want to move the book again, actually. All right, well, let's see if we can do, maybe copy this book right here over to a different shelf somewhere. Let's see if that works. So I'm going to try to wrap this up in the last 2 minutes. I'm going to make sure that on my right side layer that I'm talking about, use our pass tool. This is pretty well square, which is good and helpful to make it go quicker. Just kind of click in around the outside parts. And that looks good to me. Copy and paste this as a new layer. Paste as new layer. For sanity, we're going to call this book 2, whatever the actual book is called. And now we can move this around, and we have another book. Great. And okay, so as we go over here, it's further back. So this book's way too big. So we're going to take our transform tools over here. I'm going to pick the one that says scale. And we're just going to, again, I need to, actually it gives you an error at the bottom. Selection does not intersect with the layer. I have something selected. I have a selection. I don't need a selection. So we'll say select none. It will assume we're talking about the entire layer. I'm going to use our scale tool again, and we should be able to make this smaller. Much better. That looks pretty good to me. I'm gonna do that, and I'm gonna move this guy to right here, I guess. Is that like believable? And there's another book right next to it, exactly the same, but let's see, would it look good down here? I might put this on the bottom shelf again and make it smaller. You can't see it. Or actually, we could put it behind. Well, let's just do. The problem is it needs to be kind of. Put it in here somewhere. The problem is we can't see the top of the book, so it looks totally fake. Here is probably our best bet. So yeah, is it going to be bad that it's super obvious that there's 2 books like right next to each other on almost the same shelf? Maybe, but that's okay. All right, again, zoom in, use our clone tool, fix up. We don't need that. Actually, book in the back could stay. Oh, why don't we just leave it? All right. Maybe we'll move this over so you can see more of the book. Oops, I should not do that. I moved the entire layer. Redo. Make sure we're on the right layer when we're moving. Otherwise, we're going to be moving the background layer by mistake, and that wouldn't be unrecoverable, but it'll screw up everything. So let's see. Everything still looks good. Book 2 is here. I'm going to move it over a little bit with our move tool, and it looks like it's just another book that's behind it. That's all. Does that look believable? I don't know. We're going to get rid of that background. Something just doesn't jive with me. So we're going at overtime here. It's 101. However, it will be done very shortly. Some dark spots. Actually, to get this edge here, usually what we can do is pick our existing edge and clone that over. We get the best of both worlds. We're getting, look at that very great, fine and dandy looking edge. More. Yeah, we don't. Oops. Again, nobody really knows what's behind here because it wasn't in the picture. So it's our kind of job to say, well, is it just more background? I think that would be the easiest thing to do. So get rid of all this and this. And we're just trying to get as close as we can. Again, we're already zoomed in pretty good here. Chance nobody really noticed and that we screwed up really bad is kind of thin. I blue on the book. Oh, there's a sticker. Okay. Okay, that's good. That needs to be there. So that's good. All right. Finally, we get our 5 things right. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay. So finally, we're done. File save, file export, and export as. PNG sounds good to me. I'm going to put done and export. And if I want to, I can go back and see that it is, in fact, exported and done as number 35 or not. Oh, after we answer our dialog, then it will just magically show up. After this little progress bar goes racing across. And wait for our program to load so we can view the picture. And yeah, okay, that's cool. So a couple different books. That book works really bad, but that's okay. All right, and that will just about end our program. Those are kind of the basic things you can do with Gimp. It's just a fun little thing you can do without really knowing too much about it. And I guess we will probably just share those to social media later and see if anybody finds all the 5 things. And that's all I got for today. So it is 1:04 on October 27th. And this is, that was our program on using Gimp, the free open source GNU image manipulation program. That's it. I'm the only one here, but that's okay. And we'll see you next time.